I, male 30, am a lawyer specializing in family law. Now, this is relevant because I need you guys to know why my brother's fiancée, Stacy, female 20, came to me to take a look at their prenup. My brother Derek, male 20, was a good kid, but he's changed ever since he moved out. Derek wants to pursue an extremely expensive course that, at this point, my parents cannot really afford. Now, I know the stereotype is that just because I'm a lawyer, I should be making bank. But that's not the case either. I'm just about earning a decent amount of money to start with, and my wife, Leslie, female 33, is a homemaker. I'm saving whatever I can so I can retire early. Although we didn't plan to have kids, Leslie is pregnant and both of us had a change of heart and want to raise a child together, which means that money is going to be even tighter over the next couple of years. I did initially tell Derek that I could try and help him figure out a good student loan program or look at a scholarship and financial aid. Even I went through law school with financial assistance since our family isn't exactly wealthy. However, Derek wants a degree in film studies, which, to be honest, is really going to be a bit hit and miss kind of situation. I don't know the full story, and I may just be working off of stereotypes here, but there's no way the ROI on such an expensive degree is reasonable. The whole family had a tough time when Derek turned 18, and we tried to convince him and show him other options. But nothing was adequate for him. Eventually, it caused a big rift, and Derek kind of felt betrayed by the lack of support, leading to him moving out of the house and trying to make it on his own as an indie film director. Things were icy between Derek and us for the next year or so, but then he reconnected with us and announced his engagement with Stacy, a girl he'd met at a film screening. His fiancée was the daughter of a business mogul, and she had a very different upbringing from us. She was also involved in the film industry and had gotten Derek his first big break as a director. Overall, things were looking up for him, and I was genuinely impressed with the kind of hard work he had done to move things forward for himself. However, once I got an up close view of Derek's relationship with Stacy, I felt kind of uncomfortable. My wife and I both noticed that Derek was kind of treating Stacy like a sugar mommy, and she was paying for a lot of his new expensive equipment like cameras for his own short films. He also lived rent free with her in an apartment owned by Stacy's family, and the whole dynamic was quite financially skewed towards her. But from the outside looking in, what do we really know? They both still seemed happy together, and it was clear that Stacy loved Derek, and maybe that was her way of expressing her love. Their wedding was going to take place after Stacy graduated from college, and they were fully ready to commit to each other. Over the next couple of months, Derek spent more and more time with us, and Stacy began to feel like part of the family. Even though she hadn't really experienced the same kind of life that we had, she wasn't judgmental or snooty like other people who are crazy rich. She was working really hard to establish herself at her job and wasn't coasting through life as you would think. I did sit Derek down and asked him about how they would handle this whole thing, financially speaking. I told him that a lot of couples I had seen face troubles because of differences in income or financial habits, and how it's a necessary conversation to have before marriage. Leslie and I also spoke about it, and that's how neither of us feels resentful about our roles in the family. To my surprise, Derek didn't seem rattled by the conversation at all and simply said that he had thought about it. I pressed him to tell me more and make sure he wasn't doing anything stupid, but he kept telling me to leave it up to him. I found out later exactly what he meant, and it was a stupid move on his part. When I got home from work, I found Leslie and Stacy sitting together with my future sister-in-law looking visibly distraught. I asked her what the issue was, and she told me that Derek had asked her to sign a prenup. And when she wanted to get it reviewed by her lawyer, he started acting cagey. It escalated and Stacy left after taking a copy of the document with her. She was definitely still in the heat of the argument, but from what I could make out, Derek insulted and emotionally manipulated Stacy and acted offended when she wasn't willing to sign something that was more for her benefit than his. He made it seem like it was to ensure that Stacy's family was secure with her marrying a lower class guy. I asked to take a look at this prenup, and oh boy. The problem with prenups is that people assume it is just about splitting things 50-50 in the case of a divorce, but it's got a lot more to it. Premarital assets, debts, financial responsibility for retirement, everything can be included in a prenup. In this case, I could immediately spot a major red flag, which was the burden of sharing debts, specifically education loans. In the prenup, it stated that Stacy's income and assets should be used to pay off all loans for education and improvement by either spouse during their marriage. Another weird clause was that Derek would get an obscene amount of alimony as his worst case, meaning that if Stacy divorced him, he would be earning money. I told Stacy that under no circumstances should she sign this, and explained what my brother was trying to do. Naturally, she left in tears and said that she would break things off with him. I was angry and disappointed in Derek, but before I could speak to him and give him a piece of my mind, I got a call from Dad, cussing me out for interfering in my brother's relationship. I asked him, Dad, do you even know what he did? And he said, "Oh, P, Derek told me that you convinced Stacy not to marry him. That's all I need to know." After that, whenever I tried to tell him more, he just wouldn't listen. He then told me that Derek never wants to speak to me again, and if that's the case, they're on their side because they don't want to lose him again. Now I feel like an AH for not dealing with this situation more carefully. I know that I would still tell Stacy not to sign the prenup, but was it the best idea to tell her exactly what was in there and to imply that Derek was using her for her money? Update 1. It's been a few days since things between my brother and his fiancée blew up, and I'm feeling a lot more secure in my decision after Stacy reached out to me. She again asked to meet up and tell us her side of the story. I went with Leslie and met not only her, but her dad too. I was surprised to see him, but he was there in order to thank me for sticking to my principles. Stacy said that when she got home and confronted Derek about the prenup and the clauses he had put in, he completely lost it and said that he wanted to secure his future. The ironic part is that Stacy said that she would have helped him with his college dreams anyhow, but having it done in such a shady manner just made her feel like a walking ATM. Her dad said that he was going to make sure that his contacts got in the way of Derek's new films, and that his career was going to go up in flames. But I talked him out of it. As much as Derek is in the wrong, I do think he deserves to pursue his craft, just not at the expense of other people. Since I was the one who helped Stacy out, her dad thankfully obliged. After we got home, Leslie and I spoke again about how to reach out to my parents again, since I obviously don't want to go NC with them. She thought the best thing to do would be to speak to them along with Stacy. I mean, while Derek and she were together, my parents did like her a lot, and despite the story my brother has cooked up, I think if all three of us go to speak to them in person, they may be willing to hear us out. I asked Stacy if she could do that, but she said that she's in too vulnerable a state right now to speak to my parents. I totally get that. I guess I'll try by myself sometime. Update 2. I went over to my parents a couple of weeks after speaking to Stacy and her dad. Derek has been incommunicado for all this time, and all I know of him is through my communication with his ex. Stacy has kicked him out of her apartment and he's currently staying with a friend, although my parents have apparently invited him to move back in with them. He's not doing well and his work has taken a hit too. Despite all that, I have started to lose sympathy for him, and the more I think about his actions, the more I feel like he screwed over his chance at a great relationship and also dragged our family name through the mud. Anyhow, back to my parents. I went over, but my parents didn't answer the door. I stood there for an eternity and said, I'm not leaving until you know the truth. My mom finally let me in and said that she wanted to hear me out, even if Dad didn't. I sat with her and told her the full story and even showed her a copy of the prenup I got from Stacy. She was shocked and said that Derek had been telling them something completely different. He had made it seem as if I had been actively plotting to make Stacy realize she was too wealthy for him, and the prenup made her feel like he was only there for her money. He never mentioned the details of the prenup, though. If he did, it would be very clear that he was only there for her money. My mom said that she would speak to my dad and Derek about this, but she understands that I was not in the wrong, and she'll also reach out to Stacy and offer her emotional support when she's ready. Update 3. Just a day after I spoke to my mom, I got a call from Dad who sounded very sheepish and apologetic. He said that Derek had let them along, and once it got out that they knew the truth, he ghosted them to avoid embarrassment. Dad tried to visit him at the apartment he's staying at, but the friend who was there wouldn't let him in. After everything that's happened, it seems like Derek is going to bow out of our lives again. To be honest, I think it may be for the best. Stacy also reached out to me and Leslie to thank us for being there for her. She also spoke to my parents for closure, and they've been pretty kind to her and fully support her decision. I think my brother needs to live his life without interacting with us until he finally figures out what he wants to do with his life without sticking to his one-track dream. NTA, but something is shady. I do think your brother is being stupid about getting a degree when he doesn't need it. Using his fiancée for it is just downright scummy. NTA, period. You, WBTA, if you beat around the bush when it comes to helping Stacy. Immediately telling her was the right thing to do. No questions. Next story. I work at a sort of combination veterinary wildlife rehab center, and we hired a new assistant last week. On her second day, we had a dog come in whose anal glands we had to express, one of the least pleasant parts of the job. I trained her on how to do it and also said, it's important to hold your face right behind so you can see what you're doing better, mimicking the posture. Not true, of course. No one does that. It can spray further than people think. So she gave it a try and got the hang of it real fast and got sprayed in the face with the anal gland secretions more so than I expected. I laughed and was about to offer her a towel to clean off and say, welcome to the gross world of this profession, or something. But she took it worse than I thought, gagging a lot and then running out of the room to the toilet, right across the hall, and from the sounds of it, throwing up. She was very mad and stormed out afterwards. Apparently, she reported me and my manager and even co-workers all seemed to be on her side about how horrible it is. I got 2 days of unpaid leave, and apparently there was talk of me having to help with skunk rehab without protective gear on for a couple of days if I want to keep working there at all, which seems totally disproportionate. That's not at all the same and won't wash off. I didn't think it was that bad of a prank because these sorts of gross incidents are a part of the job, and you have to get used to gross things. I could see how it was a bit rough for a second day, though, but is it really the monstrous act that she seems to think it was? AITA? YTA. Pranking a new coworker is hazing. Hazing will make her uncomfortable with her job and place in it. Anyway, pranks are not funny unless the person pranked can laugh at them. Confuse, not abuse. You were helping her and she needs to be able to trust you, which you broke. YTA. Yes, gross incidents are a part of the job. What shouldn't be part of the job, however, are gross coworkers and superiors who bully you on the job, making sure you get sprayed in the face with anal gland secretions just for laughs. The gross world of this profession very much aren't the anal gland expressions, but people like you. Be ashamed of yourself. Next story. I, 30, female, am married to my husband, Mike, 32. Mike usually does all the cooking and it works for us. Sometimes I cook as well, but it's very few and far between. Mike's family likes to have potlucks where the women all bring different dishes. I am a good cook, but I don't enjoy it, so we've always just said I can't cook. We've been married 3 years and this hasn't been an issue. Mike and I have a daughter who's 5. She mentioned to my sister-in-law how mommy makes the best seafood casserole while trying my sister-in-law's. My sister-in-law mentioned something about the comment to my husband, and he explained how I just don't enjoy cooking, so I don't do it often, and don't want to cook for family parties. My sister-in-law told my mother-in-law, and all the women in Mike's family have been texting me that I'm selfish for letting them do all the work at family parties. So I said I don't enjoy cooking and will not be cooking for a family party. We all went back and forth a few times, so I said the next family party, Easter this weekend, my daughter and I will not be attending then. My mother-in-law said I'm an AH for not allowing my daughter to attend, saying it's manipulative and that I should just make the dish and suck it up like everyone else. My husband said he's staying out of it right now, but that he understands my position. He said maybe just make a dish one time to have peace on Easter, and I refused. So AITA for pretending I can't cook for all these years and for not allowing my daughter to attend Easter? Edits for clarification. My daughter will still spend Easter with my family, just not my husband's. He can't take her alone because he's on call for work that weekend. We did try store-bought once and it was never served on purpose. Mike doesn't cook for these events because it's time-consuming making a dish large enough, and he works a lot. Making a meal for our family doesn't take nearly as much time since there's only 2 adults and a small child. Update. Mike and I have talked about this weekend. He reached out to his mom and let her know we will not be attending if I have to cook anything. I don't know what happened during their conversation that made him so upset, but his mom has since retracted her statement and said it's fine, they just want to see their grandchild. Mike let them know that since this was the hill they wanted to die on, that he will also not be attending Easter, and that we will not be attending as a family unless the women in his family apologize for attacking me. We will be spending the full day Easter with my family, which my daughter is happy to spend the day with her cousins. Mike said we will not be attending another of his family's parties unless I'm 100% comfortable, and if any comments or remarks are made, we will be leaving and not returning. ESH. You for keeping your daughter out, them for insisting that only women bring food, and your husband for not stepping in and making the dish to be contributed by your family, and telling them so. This could all have been handled years ago while sticking to your principles by having Mike tell them back then. You know, it's great to have each family bring a dish, but it's really sexist to assume that it's always going to be the woman who makes it and arranges it with you. For the record, I'm the one who handles cooking in our household, so run everything to do with the family potlucks through me. Why don't you just do that now? YTA. So not only have you not been cooking for the potlucks, but you just haven't bought anything? It's fine if you don't want to cook, but you don't need to lie about it. And the only reason you had to lie about it is because you didn't want to help at all. Your husband could have been making dishes instead of you, or you could have contributed simple things. I don't cook often, but I'll bring a charcuterie board dip and chips, store-bought dessert. And then, when confronted about being a liar and a mooch, you just wanted to remove access to your child as punishment for them daring to point out exactly what you were doing. NTA. I'm all in favor of breaking these gender-based cooking expectations. Your daughter gets to know that she is not required to participate in this potluck tradition, and your family can maybe re-examine their assumptions about what has to happen at these gatherings. If your family bringing a dish is so important to your mother-in-law, etc., then Mike can make it and bring it. Please stop lying to make things easier, though. That's both childish and cowardly. Stay tuned for more stories from our girl relationships.